So what does she do when she can't defend her record? That's right. She lies. He said it. She lies. And she smears. And she paints decent Americans, you, as racists. She bullies voters who only want a better future. I want you to remember these 3 words. Shame on you.
Wow. That was Donald Trump, GOP presidential nominee, earlier today, preemptively responding to these attacks from his Democratic rival Hillary Clinton. Joining us now, author of 11 New York Times bestsellers. I assume this will be number 12. In Trump We Trust, E Pluribus Awesome. Ann Coulter. What's up, Miss Coulter? How are you?
You can't even reach me.
I know. I want to get there. Well, I thought that was shame on you, a perfect way to respond.
It is. What more do you want me to say?
What do you make of every 4 years we go through this nonsense, Democrats play the race card? Every 4 years.
It's not even every 4 years. It's
every 2 years.
incessant. And particularly in this case, I was going, they had, Breitbart had a book party for Trump We Trust last night.
Right.
And I was on my way there in an Uber car, and the Uber driver said, do you mind if I listen to the news? And the whole thing is apparently CNN, I found out, with them all talking about Breitbart being this racist organization, and they're all racist, and they're racist. And I said, what are you listening to? And then told him, he was a black cab driver, or the Uber driver, and I said, you are taking me to a party at this, right, at this horrible racist, because I'm bursting out laughing at all this. And I invited him to come to the party so we could see all the scary racists there. No, it's because Breitbart put out Clinton Cash, which has been watched by more than 3 million people online. I mean, it's been acknowledged by Washington Post, New York Times as absolutely devastating because it very clearly lays out the whole pay-for-play Clinton Foundation scam, where they take money, Hillary does a favor as Secretary of State, and then, oh, weirdly, Bill Clinton gets hired to give a speech for $600,000. I mean, it's just so utterly, obviously corrupt, like everything else.
And the media's corrupt. And, you know, you actually outlined in one of your earlier books, and I remember we interviewed you about that. You know, let's play her mentor. This is her mentor, Robert, the former Klansman Byrd. This is him.
There are white I've seen a lot of white in my time. I'm going to use that word. But we just need to work together to make our country a better country.
That's her mentor.
I'd say Donald Trump's attack is much better and much more devastating, and that is the Democrats and Hillary Clinton see African Americans only as voters. They don't care about, the Democrats don't care about your lives or your jobs. Immigration and a border wall is the great unifier. Trump promises to put Americans first, to protect their neighborhoods, but most of all to bring jobs back, to end these job-killing trade deals. He is the first person to ever come along and say, maybe we should care about just emptying out the manufacturing base of America and to stop dumping low-wage workers on the country. I mean, that is the big issue he has.
We have 95 million Americans out of the labor force right now. 1 in 5 American families don't have one person in their family working. So 11 million illegals, more coming every day, competing for fewer jobs, driving down wages. Who has been disproportionately impacted? What demographic group more than any other?
No,
Black Americans.
And Carol Swain, a wonderful professor at Vanderbilt, has documented this over and over again. It is African Americans who are hurt the most by our current immigration policies, which is why I'm so annoyed by the plutocrats and the rich and the elites who get their, you know, their cheap nannies and chefs and chauffeurs and strut around like they're Martin Luther King. No, the compassionate policy is to be compassionate toward Americans. And nobody has talked about Americans until Donald Trump came along and didn't need the donors, so he wasn't being bossed around by campaign consultants, though it sounds as if some campaign consultant has slipped into his campaign, and I don't think he should have been hiring, you know, Rubio's speechwriter for his interview with you, giving all these ridiculous talking points for amnesty. honesty. And to speak to that, for one thing, the mainstream media, I've criticized Trump before. I'm not some, Clinton cultist or a Cruz cultist. He's my guy, but I give him constructive criticism. And every time I do this, the media makes this huge big deal of, Coulter tiring of Donald Trump. It was a joke when I said this was going to be the shortest book tour ever. It's called a joke. But I do think, because simultaneously with his interview with you, where he said some very dumb things, he's giving these spectacular speeches in Fredericksburg, Virginia, in Tampa, Florida. They're completely the opposite. He's going back to saying, I'm going to put Americans
People
first.
misinterpreted a lot of what we discussed yesterday. What he did was survey the crowd, and then he kept reinforcing enforce the law.
Well,
that's what he said again and again and again.
And he does keep saying he will put Americans first. If he puts Americans first, then all that nonsense someone told him to say about, and they'll pay back taxes. Okay, little pro tip, back taxes for they're not making enough money to pay taxes. Back taxes mean we give each illegal alien approximately $30,000 in earned income tax credit refunds. It means we
got another
pay them.
Stay right there.
It is a lie.
I want to ask you, when we get back, about the Republican establishment's outright sabotage of Trump.
Yeah.
And because if Trump doesn't get the 90% of the base that he should get, they're helping elect Hillary. And I say they own Hillary's Supreme Court decisions. They own Hillary's unvetted refugees.
The country's over. We're at the tipping point. This is a serious election, and it's utterly irresponsible and hateful of these people who, as I described in chapter 3 of the book. A bunch of sore loser crybabies, pick up your toys and go home. This is existential for them, for the campaign consultants, for the Washington insiders. Trump has proved they are irrelevant. They don't know what they're doing, so they have to stop them to preserve their jobs. And, as I say,
take a break. We'll come back. More with Ann Coulter, her book, In Trust We Trump.
In
E Pluribus
Trump we
Awesome.
Trust.
That's what I said. In Trump We Trust. That's right.